Principal Shri Sadgurunath Maharaj ki Jai. Gajanan Swami ki Jai. Welcome devotees to another edition of the program Guru Vahini, a program produced and sponsored by the Sri Parameshwari Durga Devi Ashram Incorporated. We are located at California Drive, Savannah Heights, Charleville, in Chaguanas, Trinidad in the West Indies. This program is not a satsang type program. It is designed to be interactive. Based on the topic of discussion, you can interact with us. Call in, WhatsApp your messages, your questions. For those of you who are viewing us on Facebook, like and share our video. On YouTube, please subscribe to our channel, like and share our videos. Visit us online at www.sridurgamata.org. Interact with us, give us some kind of feedback. The number you can reach us at is 1-868-743-5145. That number again, 1-868-743-5145. So you can WhatsApp your questions during the course of the program, and we will answer the question live on air. So today we will conclude with our topic of Vedic astrology, which we have started looking at some weeks ago. Before we go into the depths of today's discussion, let us clasp our hands together, close our eyes, bow our heads. Let us contemplate on Bhagwan Ganesh, Devi Saraswati, the form of the Guru, as we commence tonight's program. Omkaravindo Sanyuktam Nityan Dhyayanti Yogina Kamara Moksharam Chaiva Omkaraya Namo Namaha. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Koti Surya Samam Pritva Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaye Shu Sarvara Saraswati Mahabhage Vidya Kamala Virochini Vidyarupe Vishalakshe Vidyadehi Namostute. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Gurur Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Dhyanamoolam Gurur Murti Pujamoolam Guru Param Mantramoolam Gurur Navatya Mokshamoolam Guru Kripa Guru Devaya Vidmahe Para Brahme Chadimani Tano Guru Prachodayat. Prem se bolo Gajanan Swami ki Jai, Mahasaraswati Mata ki Jai, Shri Sadgurunath Maharaj ki Jai. Dear devotees, welcome again to today's edition of Guru Vahini. Last day we were discussing the influence of the Nava Devatas, the characteristics of the Nava Devatas, and we look at the mechanism behind which things like Grahas work, Graha Puja. We look at concepts of the Mahadasa and Antaradasa. We look at the Graha influence. So today we are going to discuss topics that pertain to everyday living, events pertaining to everyday living, which are under the direct influence of the Grahas. And if not done in a proper time, can give the opposite results or no results at all. So we are going to do what we refer to as electional or Mahorat astrology. So in Parasar Pura Sastra, the social aspect of man's life is also under the influence of the Grahas. Every single thing that happens upon earth is under the influence of the Grahas. Last program, I pointed out that this global pandemic we are going through is even under the influence of the Grahas, right? Ketu has placed itself at the galactic center, and when Ketu goes to the galactic center, trauma occurs. The last time Ketu was at the galactic center was in conjunction with Mars. And what you had 9/11 occurring, subsequently, the start of the global war on terrorism. So, the Grahas, they govern everything upon the face of the earth. And in our daily life, sometimes we would want to engage in new ventures and activities, into celebrations, into rites and rituals. And the timing of these events is critical for its success. In Parasar Purasashtra, it says that event which is born at a particular time or commenced at a particular time carries the influence of that time with it. So if something starts on a bad time, it carries the influence of that bad time with it. That is that is what accounts sometimes when people build new homes, they cannot live in it. It is either damaged by flood or destroyed by fire. Sometimes not immediately, but into the future, depending on the dasa and the mahadasas that I operated at the time. So everything is governed by the grahas, including our social activity. So let us start at the very beginning. A baby is born. What does our Dharma Sastras dictate when a baby is born? So at the very beginning of life, that very moment of your birth carries the quality of that time upon yourself. So if sometimes children are born at a good time, and sometimes they're born under a bad period of time, in which case certain rituals are supposed to perform either immediately or before the child reaches a certain age. For example, if the child has been born under Uktamul, which is a very dangerous situation, that is where the father cannot see the child for a period of time until certain remedial rites and rituals are performed, that must be shantied immediately because you can lose your life there, somebody can die. If the child is born under, let us say, the influence of an eclipse, under the influence of the Krishna Chaturdasi or the Amavastiti or the Ashtami Tithi or other tithis like that, then certain rites and rituals have to be performed for the child before he or she reaches a year old. Other influences with bad yogas into the horoscope, those remedial rites and rituals have to be performed when those mahadasas start to operate. A very common dosha is the Mangal dosha, the Mangalik. Girls, especially if you're Mangalik, will have trouble with getting married or staying married. Certain rites and rituals are supposed to be done before you reach 16 years of age. So there are certain conditions under which children are born. If it's not auspicious, you will have to consult your guru, who himself must be a skilled Vedic astrologer in order to determine the auspiciousness or the inauspiciousness of the birth. So let us get some example from scriptures where inauspicious birth has occurred and what was the outcome. And we're going to get two very famous, so we're going to Ramayana and we're going to Bhagavad Puran. In Ramayana, the main character was Bhagwan Sri Ram. He was born on a Navami Tithi. Birth in the Navami Tithi, while physically and so on you'll be okay, health-wise and so on you'll be okay. If you look at the Rasi Kundalini of Sri Ram, being born under Navani Tithi, he was destined to separate from his wife, and that did occur. He lived the last days of his life being separated from Devi Sita. Let us go to another example. Bhagwan Krishna, he was born under Ashtami Tithi. Birth under Ashtami Tithi, somebody will always be trying to kill you. Your life will be in danger. And as you see, Bhagwan Shri Krishna lived his life from baby to adulthood. Even the manner in which he chose to lead the earth was at the hands of an assassin. So, these period of time, if not used properly, if these things are not looked at carefully, can create havoc in one's life. A skilled Vedic astrologer will look at the Rasi Kundalini and recommend appropriate rites and rituals to be performed at certain stages in your life. So when a baby is born, what are your responsibilities? Now, nowadays, in this, especially Hindus in the Western world, we have a modern tradition. When the mother goes into the delivery room, the father accompanies. While that may be good from a sentimental point of view and emotional point of view, to lend support and so on, from a scripture point of view, it is not appropriate. Why? Should, in case that child be born under a very inauspicious period of time, the mother of the child will be unclean. The father will be the one to sit with his family pundit and to perform the remedial rites and rituals accordingly. So that is the main reason why in Hinduism we don't stress on it, but we recommend. If the father could not go into the delivery room, just in case anything happens in terms of inauspicious birth, the father will be available to sit with the family pundit and perform the rites and rituals. After the baby is born, what is the first thing you do? You take a note of the date of birth, the time of birth of the individual, of the baby, and you approach the family pundit. And you make him aware that a live birth has taken place. You give him the date of birth, the time of birth, the gender of the child. And once it's somebody outside your jurisdiction or a place where there are multiple time zones, you also give them the place of birth. Because the longitude in which the child is born also dictates the rising sign, the lagna, at the time of birth. Okay? So you give the family pundit this information and then consulting the panchang, he will perform his astrological calculations and the Rasi Kundalini of that baby would be produced. And in that, depending on where the moon is at the time of birth, that is in whichever charan it is located in, or in whichever navamsa the moon is located in at the time of birth, that becomes that energy, that charan, the syllable that governs that charan becomes the starting syllable of your Rasi name. So if the moon is in Shatabisha Nakshatra and it is in the first charan, your Rasi name will automatically start with O. So you will have a name like Govinda as the Rasi name. That is just one example. So where the moon is at the time of birth, here is where you get your Rasi name. One of the more important concepts in Sanatana Dharma, in Vedic astrology, is the rising sign at the time of birth. So whichever sign of the zodiac is rising at the time of your birth, that becomes what we call your lagna. That is the foundation of your horoscope. From there, all of your qualities can be determined. So, for example, if you're born at the time Aries was on the ascend or Aries ascendant, Aries becomes house number 1, and then you go around clockwise. Taurus becomes house number 2, Gemini becomes house number 3, and so on, until it becomes Pisces as house number 12. So your Lagna, in this example that I'm using, will be Aries, and the Lagna Lord will be Mars. So therefore, this person who has been born with the sign Aries on the ascendant will carry all the qualities of Mars. And the horoscope will be read as Mars. Now, if another baby is born at a later point in time or earlier point in time in the same day, he's going to have a different Lagna. So therefore, he will have a different horoscope. In Vedic astrology, every moment in time, a different ascending sign or a different degree in that ascending sign carries its own unique quality. So when you give your Pundit this information now, apart from casting the horoscope, he will then go and give you the information for the 6 days bath and the 12 days bath. And the rites and rituals connected with those things are very informal. Why it is informal? Because that environment in which birth has taken place, it is equally unclean as though death has taken place. So even if someone is born in the hospital, because the residence of the parents is at a particular location, that environment is also considered to be chutehar or unclean. So formal rites and rituals cannot take place. The rites and rituals of the 6 days and the 12 days is a cleansing rites and ritual. It is not only a cleansing, it is also a rites and ritual designed to introduce the child into the family and into that living environment. So what is ideally done? Your Pundit, having determined the 6 days and the 12 days, he will then, through astrological calculation, determine the most appropriate chaudhariya. That is a particular time of the day in which is auspicious for the mother and the baby to take a bath. So the mother and the baby takes their bath at a particular day, a particular time in the 6-day period. And the 6 days counted from the day the baby is born. That becomes day number 1. And whichever day forward makes the 6th day at a particular chaudhariya in that day, if the bath is administered. And that bath is a ritual bath. In Trinidad, have a tradition where they give you all kind of bush to deal with. But really and truly, it is supposed to be the 9 herbs that are governed over by the Grahas. At the time of birth, Garu Puran tells us, at the time of birth, when that baby comes out of the womb with the first breath of air, the Navgraha Devatas, they raise their hand and they bless the child with all the karmas he is born with. And Mahamaya takes over. So, the Navgrahas are present there at the time of birth. When the 6 days and the 12 days ritual come, the 9, no, it's not 9 bush, but it's supposed to be 9 specific or category of herbs that are blended in that water and that ritualistic bath, depending on the chaudhariya, depending on the date the 6th day fall on, depending on the yoga and so on. A particular direction is given for the mother and the baby to face. After the ritualistic bath, the mother and the baby is required to dress in the color of the planet that governs that day. So, for example, for some people, whether it's a boy baby or girl baby, they're tempted to dress in outfits like white or red or blue or green, but it is always one of the colors of the Navgrahas. Even the direction you face, it is also the direction presided over by one of the Navgrahas. That is why the Vedic astrological calculation is very, very necessary and important to do these rites and rituals appropriately. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of the actual rite and ritual, That is not the topic of discussion for today. I'm telling you how we go about determining the bathing time, the 6 days, the bathing, the time to bathe, and I'll just give you a little insight into why you have to face a particular direction and wear a particular color after that bath. Okay? What I will say, none of the rites and rituals, as informal as it is, requires you to have alcohol, requires you to have loud, obnoxious music, and fete and party and that type of atmosphere to traumatize a newborn baby who is just a few days old. When the time comes around for the 12 days rituals also, the same procedures follow. The Pundit will give you a particular day. He will give you a particular chaudhariya or time of the day in which you have to take your bath, and you will be required to face a particular direction, and you will be required to dress in a particular color once you have taken that bath. After that, the other rites and rituals pertaining to the 6 days and the 12 days, it is traditionally on the 12th day, the Namkaran Sanskar is done in a very informal way. Sometimes people wait until later down when they do the Vedic Puja to have the baby blessed, and they'll officially call the baby by the name that is given. So on that day, 12 day 2, the Nam, you can also vocally call the baby by his name or her name that is given as your Rasi name. It is like an introduction of the baby to the family, to the environment, to the devotees. So this is how we go about determining the appropriate date and time for your 6 days and 12 days once a live birth has occurred. So hence, this is an example of the importance of Vedic astrology in the very beginning stage of your life now. Now let us go to the opposite side now. When death has occurred, what is the first thing you do? Once death has been confirmed, you get in touch with your Pundit. And your Pundit now will do certain, you look at the patra and you perform certain astrological calculation to see what we say in Trinidad if the person died in a good time. And let me clarify what does dying in a good time mean. When it comes to the death ceremony, there are some things that we pay close attention to. Now, I'm not going to discuss the details of the funeral. That is a topic for another program, for another type of discussion. I'm doing the astrological aspect of it. Once that has been confirmed, the Pundit will now go to the patra and look and see when there will be panchak. Once a death occurs in panchak, the panchak shanti ritual must be performed. That is the one which you make the 5 pindas, you make a little doll out of the pushkas and the rice flour, and you break the kalsas and so on. Once the death has occurred in panchak, that particular rite and ritual must be performed. That is probably the most important occurrence we look at when death occurs. And there are 2 other factors we look at, and there are 2 minor factors. There is something called Dvipushkar Yoga, and there is something called Tripushkar Yoga. If a death occurs in Tripushkar Yoga, something similar to the Panchak Shanti is done, but this time it is brought down to 3 items, like the 3 kalsas and the 3 dolls and so on. If it happens in Dvipushkar Yoga, we bring it down to 2. Dvi means 2. Okay? So the rites and rituals for the Dvipushkar and the Tripushkar Yoga, they are a little bit different. But the most important one we look at is for the Panchak Shanti. And that is a very dangerous one. We have seen examples where people who have died in Panchak and the appropriate Shanti was not performed or was not performed properly, other members of the family started dying within a short period of time. So, in order to prevent 5 individuals from dying out within your family, the Panchak Shanti is performed. And that can be determined only by correct astrological calculation. Okay, there are certain nakshatras we look at, and if those nakshatras are occurring at the time of the death, then we say the person died in Panchak. So if there is no Panchak, we generally in Trinidad we say the person died at a good time. But if the Panchak is there, the person did not die at a good time, and the rites and rituals have to be performed. Once the Panchak dosha shanti puja is performed, then everything will be okay, it will be good. After the day of the disposal of the body, that is the day of the cremation or the burial, here is where you're going to start to check now to set your date for your shaving. What you call in Trinidad shaving is really Daskat, that's mean 10, and then your Pandara ritual, which is the 13, approximately the 13 days after the disposal of the body. Okay, so after the funeral rituals, from the day of the funeral, not from the day the person died, but from the day of the funeral ritual, you'll get your Daskat, your 10-day shaving ceremonies, and you'll get your 13-day Bandara ritual also. What goes on in the shaving and the Bandara is a topic for another discussion. Okay? After that, now you will have your Uttara Bhandara, the yearly Bhandara, and that is set accordingly. It is usually, traditionally, it is done on the 11th month of the day of the disposal of the body. So the rituals pertaining to death, just like first, you must consult your pundit, and the appropriate rites and rituals, remedial rites and rituals must be performed. Failure of which it can have consequences. Now, as you go through life, there will be certain ventures and activities that you will want to do. For example, everyone would like to own their own home. Some of us will opt to build our home. Here, Vedic astrology is very, very important. We have had many, many examples. I have had many experiences where homes were not built in the proper time and the residents could not live in harmony here. They have to keep moving, or disaster, or some negative entity or energy keeps is predominant in that home. In Sanatana Dharma, the concept of the Vastu Purusha, if the energies, the Vastu energy is not in harmony with you, with that project that you're taking, you're going to face untold obstacles. And this is one of the things that accounts for people's house being burned down at a certain time, or damaged in a certain way by natural disasters at a certain point in time. Okay, so to avoid the appearance of uh, these negativities from happening, we perform the Sumi Puja, the Vastu Purusha Puja, at the time of the construction of the home. So again, according to Vedic astrology, a proper date, a proper nakshatra, a proper yoga, proper current is chosen. Then we look for something called a yogini. Where the yogini is, we make sure the yogini is in a favorable position to know the direction. We look at the position of the moon, the position of the yoginis to know where is the favorable position to face or to start digging that posthole. The great astrologer Vahini said, you start with the northeast corner, but the direction you face will be determined by the astrological forces present at that date and time. And so when the Bhumi Puja is performed and the house construction starts there, following some basic Vastu rules, like for example, the direction in which your main entrance is open, the windows in your home are open, and so on. Basic things like that can enhance the quality of your life in your home. The harmony of the once the energies are harmonized, then you will be happy. Yes. Failure of which there are certain rites and rituals that are performed to correct these Vastu defects in your home. Now, given our building codes in the Western world, No building will be 100% compliance with Vastu. But what Vastu Shastra has given us, there are certain rites and rituals or certain yantras and pujas that can be performed, and that will remedy whatever Vastu defects there may be. Same thing as purchasing a car. You want to purchase your car under the appropriate lagna. For example, let me go back to building the house. One of the things I call for people house being destroyed frequently by natural disaster. You know, sometimes 1 year you lost, a few years later down the road, you get flooded out, a few years down the road, the house burned down. What accounts for some people having that kind of so-called bad luck? If you build your house in a movable lagna, obviously you're going to get yourself in trouble. The house will move. You don't want your house move, you want your house to remain steady and firm. So you look for a fixed lagna, fixed sign of the zodiac to build your house. The opposite now we look at for when we're going to buy a vehicle. You buy a vehicle in a wrong time when there's a fixed sign and your vehicle will remain parked up in your garage. You always shut down or break out. So you buy your vehicle in a movable lagna, and the vehicle will be able to do what it is designed to move without any troubles and difficulty. That is why when you're going to do these important investments, like build your home or start or buy a new car or any kind of vehicle, we recommend that you consult your pundit. Scripture recommend that you consult your pundit and you get the appropriate day and time. Now, let me point out something to you. You know, there are people who like to play the old Baba, who like to play the old pundit. So they'll go to a generalized Hindu calendar and they say this is a good day, that is a good day, and they go on. That may be a good day in the heaven, that doesn't mean this is a good day for you. There is something called Chandrabala and something called Tarabala. If it is a good day in the heavens, but you don't have the Chandrabala or the Tarabala on that day, it cannot be a good day for you. And these are two important factors we take into consideration when we are giving you, an individual, a date and time to do auspicious work. A date that may be good for you may not be good for somebody else. Your horoscope is not another person's horoscope. You may have a Chandrabala and the Tarabala on that particular day, but your friend or your neighbor may not have it. Or even your sibling within your own home may not have it on that particular day. So even though you're very close, what is appropriate for one may not be appropriate for the other. So, dear devotees, when we're going to do important investments, when we're going to do important business, when we're going to do important projects like build our homes, invest in our people, start our higher education, which will eventually be the stepping stone to enter into our career path, it has to be done in appropriate time. When you're going to start your new business, the success or the failure of your business is determined. If your business has to do with selling or retail especially, and you have to be directly involved in it, then things like you look for Gajakeshari Yoga, Lakshmi Yoga, where you want to make money. If you don't have those things enough, or you start your business on a day, those things are not occurring, you're going to be struggling. But if you're guided by your pundit, who must be a competent Vedic astrologer, and these auspicious dates and time are determined specifically for you, then your business will succeed. You will be successful in your ventures and activities. So too, important events such as why do some people recover faster from illness than others, especially if the course of treatment has to do with surgery. Some people undergo surgery and they don't bother to consult their pundit and they take very long or they deal with complications. And some people consulted their pundit, performing their appropriate rites and rituals, they go on to the surgery and they heal very fast. All of these things are very important. Now, You may, if you don't understand, or there's a certain degree of ignorance within you, you'll say, well, that is only because stupidness. But remember, you're living in a world full and interactive of energies. So the more positive energies you have on your side, the more successful you're going to be. And positive energies are not generated from the karmas that you come from your past birth with. It is also generated by your attitude and mentality. It is also generated by your environment. It is also generated by the type of sadhana, the type of mental thoughts. All of these things influence your energy pattern. So the more positive energies you have, including the Grahas, which is the chief energy that influence or everything upon it, the more positive energies the Navagraha Devatas give you, the more beneficial it will be to you, the more successful you are going to be in your ventures and your activities. So all activities, not only at a personal level, let us take one example now from a community point of view. As Hindus, we are advised to get attached to our village mandir or to a mandir by which we can practice our dharma. It is supposed to become a center by which we go to get ourselves rejuvenated, where we go to reflect, where we go to learn and develop ourselves, where we go to socialize as well as to worship. So the mandir is a very important institution in the life of a Hindu. We do not live in a vacuum. Human beings are social creatures, and social interaction is necessary to coexist, to grow, to develop, to flourish, for civilization itself to evolve. But Sanatan Dharma has put certain structures in place, and with the passage of time, the mandirs have become the focal point through which society grow and develop, through which it will be refined, and through which one generation will learn the culture and the tradition of the other. So that mandir becomes a very important institution. And there are certain activities in the mandir, if it is not done according to the rules and the dictates of our scriptures, with the appropriate timing, can create havoc for not the individuals alone, but for the entire community in which that mandir is located. So there you have the concept of the Gram Devta. Gram Devta means the village deity. The Sthan Devta, which means the Devta that is established in that mandir. Then you have the Kul Devta, the Devta of that lineage. All of us belongs to a particular Gotra, and that Gotra has descended from one of the Vedic rishis. And then you have your Ish Devta. So these deities, your Ish Devta is your personal deity. Your Kula Devta, that is through your family bloodline. There is a main deity that presides over everybody's family bloodline. The temple you go to, there is a Sthan Devta, a Devta that is established, the main deity. And in each village, no matter how much mandir there is, there will be a Gram Devta, a village deity. Some village nowadays will have more than one. So these deities and them, if things are not done according to proper time, proper Vedic, if their rites and rituals are not performed according to Vedic astrology at the appropriate time, it can create havoc not only for you, the individual, but for the entire community. Let us look at a practical example. Long ago, and your grandparents and great grandparents would know about this. When the Navratri comes, there will be some of the people who from the village, they will go by the river, they will gather the dirt, and they will make the deity murti. And they will go from home to home, or from village to village and perform the puja. That is the Gram Devta worship. And that village deity protects the village from criminality, from poverty, from distress. Can you imagine long ago, our grandparents and great grandparents didn't have the kind of amenities we have, but they lived very comfortable, they lived very contented, they lived more healthy life, the environment was more safe and secure. Why? Because they put a lot of emphasis in the worship of the Gram Devta, the village deity. And they do it religiously according to with appropriate time and so on. So when that time of the year comes, some villages for over 100 years they have Ganesh Utsav taking place, especially villages in the south. Here in Central, I remember small growing up, we used to have the Devi, what I would refer to as the Devi Yatra now. Long ago, they would take the dirt and they would build the Devi Murti and they would go from house to house and perform a worship. And so you have, within recent time, a variety of yatras and so on taking place. These things are highly beneficial and highly important, not only from a cultural point of view, not only from a psychological point of view, but to spreading that protective energy that deity absorbs the negativity and protect that, and that protective energy goes into the wider environment. However, it must be done appropriately. For example, in the Devi Yatra that we do, the preparation starts with the first Navratri, the first big Navratri. And according to Vedic calculation, on that particular day, the Matrika Puja is performed. And once that Matrika Puja is performed on that particular auspicious day, then when the second of big Navratri comes, then the Murti is able to move from home to home, from village to village. And then on the day of Vijayadashami, the Visarjan ceremony takes place, in which the Murti now is dissolved and brings an end to the ceremony. Now, why am I telling you all of this? From time to time, you wonder, there are certain things. When it comes to temples and permanent murtis, it must be done in appropriate Vedic time. When the if the all the building of all temples must be done when the sun is Uttarayan. There are host of auspicious factors must be present, but the sun must also be in the northern direction. Parasa Mura Sastra and Varamahira, in this writing, Brihad Samhita, states if a mandir is not built in the appropriate time, it brings the destruction of the village. Similarly, these authors also warn that the main deity of that mandir, if it's not established, and we're talking of permanent murti, when the sun is in the northern direction, then that deity brings that village to ruin also. But if the deity is not pleased, the inhabitants of that village will also suffer. So permanent murtis are supposed to be, as according to Varamahir in his writings of Brihad Samhita, according to Brigu Sutram, and according to Parasa Vura Sastra, they are supposed to be established when the sun is in Uttarayan, the sun is in the northern direction. That is the daylight hours of the daytimes. During this period of time, when we are preparing to observe Ganesh Utsav, and later on Devi Yatra, those are immersion murtis, dissolvable murtis. Those are not permanent murtis. The ritual to establish a dirt murti is different from the ritual to establish a permanent murti. A stone murti, a concrete murti. Because after a period of time, that dirt murti has to be moved and taken to the ocean or the river and dissolved. So when a temple is being built, and we can take it further, things like community centers, things like sporting facilities within the community, those things are supposed to be done when the sun, as well as other factors, are in auspicious position. With specific reference to temples, it must be done when the sun is in the northern direction. And with the purpose of establishing permanent moon fields. It must be done when the sun is also in the northern direction. Failure of which, that temple is going to have bacchanal, is going to have fallen out, is going to have among the members who have robbery, they'll be stealing the wealth of the mandir for their personal use. And after a period of time, the entire institution will fall apart. The villagers themselves will start to suffer. So, dear devotees, we have taken a very generalized look at Mahurat astrology. This is what we call electional astrology, or astrology pertaining to the social aspect of our life. I've discussed it in a very, very generalized way, the details of which you have to sit with your pundit and discuss according to the appropriate, whatever your appropriate queries may be. Principal Shri Satyanarayan Swami Ki Jai. So at this point in time, we will have some questions pertaining to today's talk.
Okay, our first question deals with somebody who's born in an inauspicious time. If that person, well, as a child would not have known, but would not have gotten any remedial pujas done at that time, and as an adult they found out about it, is there anything at that point in time that they can do to remedy these discrepancies?
In some cases, there are certain rites and rituals, but it will not. Once the time has passed, it usually takes up a considerable amount of time and effort and energy. It entails not just the ordinary rite and ritual, but it entails now a lot of different jap and pavan and fasting and so on to bring that dosha, the shanti, that particular dosha, once the appropriate time has passed to do so, especially when it comes to their Bhukta Moola and so on.
A question that springs off from that as well. For those who may not have known their exact time of birth, and during the last couple of weeks you've spoken highly about the specific time of birth in which you can get your patra checked, and is there any way that somebody may be able to get that done if there is no specific time of birth?
Without a specific time of birth, you cannot get an accurate patra reading. What we can do is do a very vague and generalized reading based on where the moon position is at the time of birth, or where the moon position is, because the moon will remain in a particular sign of the zodiac for roughly a day and a half, 2 days in some cases. So we can get, based on the moon position, idea or some information of what's going on with you at that particular stage in your life. Now the houses of the zodiac, the houses in your horoscope, gets their signification from the lagna, and without the time of birth you cannot determine the lagna. So therefore, it's almost impossible to tell you what a skilled Vedic astrologer will do. Just give you a very, very rough estimate of what is supposed to be happening with you based on how skilled he is. But really and truly, it cannot be accurate without your proper date of birth, your time of birth. Even if you don't have your time of birth, you can still get some information for the now, just for now. But if you don't have your date of birth, there's absolutely nothing you can do about getting any information. So what we will do is resort to something called prashna. Just as our birth of a baby at a particular time carries either auspicious or inauspicious qualities, the birth of certain thought energy within your mind at a particular time, what we refer to in astrology as prashna. So through prashna we can answer something like the most famous prashna you would know. The youngsters may not be too familiar, but the adults will know. We sometimes when you go by Baba, and you don't have proper information, he will open a book called Hanuman Jyotish. And through Hanuman Jyotish, that is a book on Prashna. After meditating on Lord Hanuman, your finger is placed on a particular chakra, and based on the question that you have, Baba will open that book to that particular chakra, and the finger will be placed on it, and the answer will be given to you from there. The whole concept of how Prashna works, you are influenced by that particular thought at that particular moment in time, based on how the Grahas influence you at that exact point in time.
Okay, one of our viewers sent in this question. The question is in 2 or 3 parts. How is a person to know if they were born in a good or bad time? Also, what if there is no opportunity to remedy any bad influences? How does that affect the karma of that person?
Everything that happens to you in your life is a direct result of karma. If you are destined to go through, in the Navagraha Samhita, it tells you, and Varamahir makes reference to it in Brihat Samhita also, that if you are destined, if the Grahas decide that you must experience certain things in a particular lifetime, things will be orchestrated in such a way that upon your birth, information such as your date of birth and time of birth can be lost, or you will not know those things. And in that way, the Graha will have total hold and control over you. So you will have to be experiencing the dasas and the maha, antardasas and so on as they come. With reference to how does somebody know whether they're born in a good time or bad time, the baby is not supposed to know that. The parents are supposed to be responsible and approach their guru, the family Pundit, with the date of birth and the time of birth of the child. And then the Pundit, through his calculation, will determine whether the child is born at a good time or bad time. If in case the child is born at a bad time, we will also recommend the appropriate remedial rites and rituals to be performed at what stage of the child's life.
Okay, now final question. You spoke about movable and fixed lagnas. Could you give an example of those and probably just a brief description of them?
Okay, so example of a fixed lagna is Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. Those are the 4 fixed signs. And when we're doing construction of a home, and just one example would be building anything, you want your foundation to be steady. So we try to choose a date and a time when one of these signs of the zodiac is on the ascendant. And once those signs of the zodiac and other auspicious factors are present, that is a good day for construction. Once on that particular day you have the appropriate Chandravala, Karavala, that is a good day for you to start construction. Okay? A movable sign, the most common, the most popular movable sign is the sign Cancer. So, for example, if you want to purchase a vehicle, the movable signs are the most appropriate sign to purchase a vehicle. So you want to Cancer is one of such sign, you can purchase your vehicle. Now, if you purchase a vehicle, let's say Taurus, when Taurus is on the rise, at that moment of time, you make your down payment. Now, when it comes to vehicle, some people think the day they collected the vehicle from the dealer, that is the day, that is the official day. That is far from the truth. That is the day you're concluding the business. The day you're going to sign your official document, or you're going to make your down payment, that is the day that you get your appropriate dates, your auspicious date and time for. Same thing with the house. You get your appropriate date for the day that you're going to start your foundation. How to take a few months to build. Same thing with a vehicle. Nowadays, it will take a few days or even possibly weeks to get your vehicle. So the day that you initiate the business, that is the day that must be auspicious. What happens during the process doesn't matter. So movable assets. You want movable lenders with other auspicious factors present. Fixed assets, you want Even the day you start in your higher education, you must start up, if possible, on a day that a fixed ascendant is on the rise. Because that is what is going to take you into your career path.
You spoke about communities' experience and either positive or negative effects based on a certain data or that's present in the community. These days, we see communities drifting apart and everybody is basically living their own lives. But if a community is, let's say, going through a negative period, is there anything that a family unit can do to protect themselves against that within the community setting?
What a family does together will benefit the family. If the entire community, let us say for example, a community is made up of a series of multiple families. Let us say one family alone in that village is observing all the protocols of social distancing in this modern time. Then that home alone, they're wearing their masks, they're observing social distancing, they're sanitizing. They in that house, and they're not socializing in crowds, they will be protected from COVID, right? But other members of the community, that same community that they live in, they are not observing these protocols, then they are going to be affected. And we see that happening right now in Trinidad, in your own community, in every village right now in this country, whether you want to accept it or not, there is somebody suffering with COVID. Another thing is criminality. You do everything appropriately to secure yourself and your family. That doesn't mean that there are no bandits in your village. The bandits may be living right next door to you. So what a family does takes care of the family. But if there's a wider problem that is affecting multiple families within a community, then families can come together, the community can come together and perform the appropriate rites and rituals. And one of the reasons why there's a breakdown from a social point of view is because we have neglected, as Hindus, we have neglected the Gram Devta of our community. In some communities, there were the Shiv mandirs. In some communities, there were the Devi mandirs. In some communities, how many of you could remember every full moon in the village used to have full moon at a long time? Now that we have turned our backs on this, the Gram Devta is no longer giving the protection and the negativity, the criminality, and all of the vices and the sins are now filtering because the Gram Devtas have withdrawn their protection, their support. Farmers, even some farmers today, although they are very few in numbers, but nearly everybody long ago, before they would start after they prepare their land to start a new set of crops, they would tapawe their land, they would perform the gram devta puja on that piece of land, and then they would proceed to plant their crops and so on. And that is to protect the crops from natural disasters and to make sure the harvest is bountiful. And there's barakah, that when the producer sold, the money will be enough to not only take care of the family, but also sustain them and to have to for future use. So dear devotees, this brings us to an end of our discussion on Vedic astrology. Vedic astrology is so vast I cannot discuss it with you in just 2 or 3 programs. What I have attempted to do is make you aware of how important this science is in your daily life. And to also draw to your attention the amount of crooks there are out there. When you hear this Indian Expo advertising that those are businessmen, those are not astrologers. Not even India, they are recognized as astrologers. They come here, pretend. But some of you, because they come from India, you feel that because they came from India, they're better than what we have here in Trinidad. So don't be fooled. Don't get yourself in these don't get yourself taken by these con artists and so on. Go to your qualified pundits who will guide you appropriately. We have been doing it for well over 160 something years. What makes it any different now? So stick to your guru, stick to your family pundits, and they will be able to guide you appropriately. Now on Guru Vahini, on Sunday the 30th of August, Guru Vahini, we had a special program on Ganesh Utsav, We are entering the Ganesh Utsav period. So on this particular day, on Sunday, the 30th of August at 6 p.m., gather your dirt murti and your dugras, your flowers, your chandan, your sindur, your saffron, your tarya with prasad. Get your flowers, get your lighted diya, get all the ingredients for ghee hawan. Your hawan pun, your match, your camphor, your melted ghee, and we are going to perform simple Ganesh Puja on Guru Vahini. It will be a demonstration type puja that you all could follow along. It will be done in such a way that you all can join in and do everything in a stepwise manner. For those of you who have this publication from our ashram, the entire procedure is here. You just have to follow this every day during the Ganesh Utsav. In this magazine, we also have this special Ganesh Havan that is appropriate for this particular period of time. The 52 names of Lord Ganesh, it is here. Okay, so we are going to do this on Guru Vahini at 6 p.m. on Sunday, the 30th of August. So join us as we will celebrate Ganesh Utsav. Also, on that day, you will be required to get a clean bucket half filled with water. I will show you how to do your Visarjan ceremony and still be in compliance with the public health ordinance. Remember, the beaches are closed, the rivers are closed. I am not advocating that you go to the beach or the river. Obey the laws of the land. It is for your own safety and protection. Do not go to the beaches or rivers. I'm appealing to you. Obey the public law, the public health ordinance. I will show you how you can use a simple bucket of water and perform your Visarjan ceremony. So next week Sunday, I'll be talking to you about Ganesh Utsav and I'll be telling you what happens. Not only what will be happening here in Trinidad for the Visarjan, but what happens also in India, in the desert areas where there is no water. How do they do Visarjan ceremony over there? We'll be looking at all of that. Okay, so join us next week, next week Thursday for Guru Vahini, and then on Sunday the 30th for the Ganesh Utsav Puja on Guru Vahini. That will be a special Guru Vahini on that day where we will all sit and perform simple Ganesh Puja. So at this point in time, let us bring our program to an end. So let us clasp our hands together, close our eyes, bow our heads, and we have our concluding prayer for today. Om Twameva Mata Chapita Twameva Bandhu Chasaka Twameva Vidya Dravidam Twameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Shanti 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 Hare Om. Praise the Lord Shri Satya Sanatana Dharma ki Jai.